This 17 News at Noon podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule. Good afternoon. Welcome to 17 News at Noon. I'm Maddie Jansen, in today for Elena Rusk. As more wet weather hits Kern County this morning, the Board of Supervisors approved a local state of emergency proclamation in response to the storms dating all the way back to February 21st. The emergency proclamation will allow for more funds to assist local communities affected by the recent storms. Fire Chief Aaron Duncan spoke to supervisors about the impact of the storms on communities from Pine Mountain Club to McFarland to the Kern River Valley. Duncan says when his forecasters began warning him of the incoming rain on top of saturated ground and plentiful snow, they started getting their ducks in a row. 50 firefighters, along with Kern County Sheriff's deputies and search and rescue volunteers, started going door to door in impacted communities to warn of possible evacuations. As the rain started to come in, first responders and their equipment were in place, watching the river. Duncan says the levels we saw in the Kern River with this last storm haven't been seen since the 1960s. And now a new area of concern has come to the attention of the department. An area off Calgary Drive in Wofford Heights, where an evacuation order has been issued due to soil instability that could lead to landslides. A warning was issued for all of Wofford Heights, but the order has been issued for the small tract of Calgary. During the response to these storms, Duncan says over 7,000 sandbags have been handed out, 6 different evacuation sites have been established, and over 350 homes have been assessed for damage. And most importantly, there have been no reports of any injuries anywhere in the county. The chief said the need for people to sign up they need people to sign up to volunteer for the Red Cross. Meantime, all evacuation orders issued for Kernville and Wofford Heights remain in effect. There's an evacuation center at Kern Valley High School on Erskine Creek Road in Lake Isabella. And officials also have their eyes on the community of McFarland, which saw significant flooding after Pozo Creek overflowed its banks. The incident management team says there's still a notable amount of water near the community of Pond and Highway 43, adding there were multiple levee breaches all the way from the 43 to Highway 65. All evacuation orders remain in effect for this area as well. And an evacuation center was set up at the Delano at the 11th Avenue Community Center. There you can find food, water, EMTs, and spiritual care if needed. Not only can flooding be dangerous, the water itself can also be harmful to your health. Kern Public Health Director Bryn Kerrigan says the water could contain toilet waste, hazardous chemicals, heavy or sharp objects, live or dead animals, and downed power lines that can electrically charge the water.
Avoid contact with floodwater whenever possible and wear personal protective equipment if you have to make contact with floodwater or items that may have been contaminated with floodwater. Wash your hands with warm, clean water and soap after contact with floodwater or items contaminated with floodwater.
Public Health is continuing to assess hazards in the flooded areas in Kern County. They are surveying water systems and septic systems for possible contamination.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OBGYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
The Consumer Price Index rose 0.4% in the month of February. According to today's Labor Department report, that puts the annual inflation rate at 6%, which is in line with market expectations. The core CPI, excluding food and energy prices, also increased, going up by 0.5% last month and 5.5% from a year earlier. Over 70% of the rise was due to shelter costs. A decrease in energy costs also helped keep the headline CPI reading in check. Eggs are finally getting cheaper at the grocery store. According to new data by the Bureau of Statistics, in February, egg prices fell around 7% compared to January. Prices are still higher than they were a year ago. In the last 12 months, the price of eggs increased more than 50%. The price hike came after a drop in supply caused by the deadly avian flu. In general, grocery prices are also still high, up around 10% from a year ago. The Department of Justice is suing Rite Aid for what they say is its role in distributing opioids and allegedly ignoring signs of obvious misuse. The complaint filed says from May 2014 to June 2019, the pharmacy knowingly distributed fentanyl and oxycodone, among other controlled substances that were unlawful prescriptions. The DOJ also saying that Rite Aid ignored the responsibility and put profits first. SpaceX plans to begin testing its Starlink satellite to cell service with T-Mobile this year. SpaceX and T-Mobile announced their partnership in August, vowing to end mobile dead zones. And now the testing phase is about to begin. A Starlink executive says, quote, "We're going to learn a lot by doing, not necessarily by overanalyzing." SpaceX has launched about 4,000 Starlink satellites to date and recently rolled out even more powerful satellites. In December, SpaceX surpassed 1 million Starlink users. Two of the largest supermarket chains in the country, Kroger and Albertsons, plan to merge in a $20 billion deal. The two brands have been in negotiations since 2022. The planned merger is now undergoing a Federal Trade Commission review. Kroger says it's cooperating with the review and hopes the deal with Albertsons will close early next year. Purina is issuing a further recall of its prescription dog food. The company is voluntarily recalling 2 additional lots of its Pro Plan Veterinary Diet's elemental dog food. This is because of elevated levels of vitamin D. Purina originally issued a recall after it received 2 reports of dogs showing vitamin D toxicity after eating the food. In both cases, the dogs recovered after the food was taken out of their diets. Lunchables are going to school. Kraft Heinz is bringing the ready-to-eat packaged meals to school cafeterias nationwide next fall. The company says 2 new varieties were reformulated in order to meet federal guidelines, and they are now going to be different than the ones found at the grocery store. The options include turkey and cheddar, cracker stackers, and extra cheesy pizza. Researchers in Germany have found that following the Mediterranean diet, which is rich in fish, vegetables, and olive oil, can promote healthy aging of the brain and protect you from dementia. It may also ward off the harmful buildup of proteins in the brain, which is one of the main causes of Alzheimer's disease. Eating the Mediterranean diet means butter, meat, and fats are hardly ever consumed, so you may have to show some control to feel the effects. While a study conducted by behavioral scientists showed users who turned on Grayscale mode on their phone, which changes the colors on the screen to black and white, reduced their screen time by 15 minutes a day compared to the control group. Another group that set time limits saw a gradual reduction of screen time. Cutting back on the amount of time you spend on your phone can help lower stress, improve sleep habits, and posture, according to the Mayo Clinic. Also making news around the state, President Joe Biden is expected to sign an executive order today to increase the number of background checks required to purchase firearms. The executive order also promotes better and more secure firearm storage and ensures U.S. law enforcement agencies are getting what they need for gun control. It also directs Attorney General Merrick Garland to clarify the current definition of who is in the business of selling guns. The president plans to introduce the executive order in a speech from Monterey Park. Back in January, a gunman stormed the dance hall there and shot 20 people, killing 11 following a Lunar New Year celebration in the nearby Los Angeles community. Biden will also meet with families of the victims, first responders, and Brandon Say, the young man who was able to take the semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman. FBI data shows that the National Instant Background Check System carried out more than 31 million background checks on people looking to own firearms or explosives in 2022. And meantime, yesterday, President Biden revealed that former President Jimmy Carter, who entered hospice care at home last month after a series of hospital stays, asked him to deliver his eulogy. During a fundraiser in Rancho Santa Fe yesterday, Biden said that he spent time with Carter recently and that the former president's health has finally caught up with him. The Carter Center did not provide details of the former president's recent hospitalizations when he entered hospice care at his home in Georgia last month. During his first term in the Senate, Biden endorsed Carter's bid in 1976 for the Democratic presidential nomination. Carter, who is 98 years old, is the oldest living former American president and the first president born in a hospital. He was diagnosed with cancer in August 2015, melanoma that had spread to his liver and brain, but he was later declared cancer-free. In 2019, he suffered a black eye and received stitches after a fall and was later hospitalized with a fractured pelvis incurred in a separate fall. And making news around the nation, former representative and pioneer for women's rights, Pat Schroeder, has died. According to her former press secretary, Schroeder recently suffered a stroke and died at a hospital in Florida, where she'd been residing in recent years. She was first elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1972 and went on to serve Congress for more than 2 decades. She became known as a forceful voice on issues from women's reproductive rights to arms control. Schroeder was 82.
Well, let me just say,
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has been released from the hospital 5 days after suffering a fall at a Washington, D.C. hotel. The 81-year-old senator is recovering from a concussion, and his medical team also discovered he has a minor rib fracture. McConnell will undergo physical therapy at a rehabilitation facility before returning home.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.